Today we're upstairs in the down-to-earth woodworking shop, and I'm in the corner at the little bench where I sharpen my tools. You know, for the better part of 50 years, this is what I've used. 3 water stones and 2 hands. Very simple, but effective, and it works for me. Now that's not to say I haven't tried other systems. In fact, anything that came along that promised to sharpen tools faster, easier, or better, I think I tried it. But I kept coming back to my old basic system. Well, today we're going to try something completely different, the Tormek T4 Sharpening System. So let's get going. This is the Tormek instruction manual, and when I first looked at it I thought, wow, that's pretty daunting, but it's not at all. Setting up the machine was a complete breeze. The first thing you do is install the grindstone, and that's just 1 finger tightened screw for that. Then you snap the water trough into place, and then the manual recommends squeezing a few drops of light machine oil to the leather stropping wheel. That's just to soften the leather. The tool rest can be installed in the vertical orientation or in the horizontal orientation. When it's in the vertical orientation, the wheel is spinning into your cutting tool. When it's in the horizontal orientation, the wheel is spinning away from your cutting tool. There's a micro adjust wheel on the tool rest for precise adjustment. Now, the last thing is fill the trough with water, and this wheel soaks it up pretty fast. So you keep adding water up to the max fill line until the wheel stops soaking it up. And that's it. We're almost ready to sharpen. The first thing to know about the Tormek sharpening systems is that they are just that, systems. There are jigs and fixtures for every conceivable cutting edge. I don't think there's a tool that couldn't be sharpened repeatably and accurately on the Tormek system. Now the T4 does not come with any jigs or accessory mounts. They leave that up to you so you can get exactly what you need. And if you're going to sharpen chisels and plane irons like me, you're going to need the SE76 square edge jig. This is what it looks like, and it's actually quite thoughtfully engineered. There is a stop, a removable stop that's attached, and there is an end stop. So let's see how this goes on. The first thing we do is slide on our stop, and then we slide on the square edge jig, and then we just screw in the end stop. And what these stops do, this one is adjustable, is it allows you to set this jig so that your tool doesn't go off the edge of the grinding wheel. All right, now I've set up a bit of an experiment. What I did was I got 2 brand new plane irons. They're identical, they're both A2 steel. Now I've already started working on the one that I'm gonna sharpen by hand. I've got the back pretty flat. It's looking pretty good. It had a hollow in the middle, and I've sort of got it now to where I've got a shiny edge all the way across the back, so I know that little section is flat, so I'm in pretty good shape there. And I've been working on the shape of the bevel, and I've got that done. And so now I'm just honing the bevel, just a few passes to get that nice sharp edge on there. And then I will just turn it over to make sure there's no wire edge on the back and make a pass. And that blade is pretty much ready. It pretty much looks like the other plain blades that I use. Got a nice mirror look. I can see myself. Doggone, he's good looking. All right, so that one's pretty much ready. Now it's time to start working with the Tormek. I took 27 minutes, start to finish, to get that blade in shape by hand. Now let's kind of take a look and see what it's going to do on the Tormek. All right, now the thing that always takes the longest on any blade is flattening the back. And Tormek actually describes this pretty well in their instruction manual, and that is using the side of the wheel to flatten the back quickly. Now they recommend putting the tool rest in the horizontal position and using it just to kind of help you hold the blade so it doesn't spin out of your hand. So let's give that a whirl and let's see what it looks like. We've got lots of water on the wheel, so that's good. And I just want to get it on there smoothly. It's feeling pretty slick. Let's take a look. All right, that's definitely getting shiny, and you can still see some dark areas. You can also see some swirl marks. But I'm not going to let that bother me too much right now. I'm just going to continue to work on this until I get it flat. I'm going to push my glasses up so I can see up close. One nice thing about the Tormek is it's a very safe machine to use. You should always follow all the safety directions, but I certainly feel more comfortable using this than a regular dry bench grinder. All right, see if we can get a little light on that. That's nice and flat, looking pretty good. So now let's set up and start working on the bevel. All right, now I've installed the plain blade into the square edge jig, and I've got it set up for the angle, and that's just done by adjusting the height of the tool rest. And now all I've got to do is just turn it on and start to shape the blade. Now the wheel, when you get it, will be in its coarse configuration, which is about 220 grit equivalent. And we'll regrade that stone in a couple of minutes with the included stone grater. But let's shape the bevel. And I'm going to kind of do this right-handed so that you can see what's going on here. Basically, all we're doing is putting a little downward pressure on the blade, just a little bit, and just going back and forth. Now, you want to linger just a little bit at the edges because the center of the blade is almost always exposed to the wheel since the blade is wider than the wheel. And going back and forth, you would actually take out more out of the center if you didn't linger at the sides a little bit. So we'll just go back and forth, just develop a little bit of a rhythm. And if you inspect the blade periodically while you're doing this, you'll see if you're getting it even. It's pretty easy to do. In fact, let's take a look now. And yeah, I'm getting a pretty even edge. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm getting a pretty even edge right along here. In fact, it's probably ready to go to the next phase. So let's switch it over, and that's actually really easy. What we're going to do is we're going to regrade the stone. Now this is the stone grater. There's a coarse side and a smooth side. So when you want to make the stone smooth, you use the smooth side. And what this will do is after 30 to 45 seconds of holding this against the wheel, this wheel will become the equivalent of 1,000 grit. I think that's long enough. And you can feel of it. Oh yeah. That feels very smooth. So now we haven't changed a thing in our setup. All we have to do is just slide this back on, and we're essentially now honing. Oh yeah, that looks very nice. Now what we have is a very fine longitudinal scratch pattern. Now what I've done is I've slid the square edge jig off, and I have not removed the tool. I actually found there's really no reason to. And then if I needed for some reason to go back to the grindstone, it's still all set up. I've charged the leather stropping wheel with some honing compound, this honing paste, and we're ready now to polish the edge of the blade. And we're going to do that freehand. On the T4, there's just not enough room to get the tool rest in and do this. So we're just going to do this freehand, and it's really quite easy. I'm going to take my glasses off so I can see up close. And all we really have to do is just lower it on there and let the wheel do the work. All right, now I've installed my hand sharpened blade in my jack plane. I fully expect this to be nearly perfect. And I think it is. Okay, now I've got the Tormek sharpened blade in my same exact plane, same exact board, and we'll see how this does. Now I've spent a little time setting this up, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's not quite as sharp. It's taken a little bit more effort to push through, and as try as I might, I can't quite get the shaving as thin as I was getting before. All right, now what I did was I took the blade that was sharpened 100% on the Tormek, and I took it out of the plane and took it upstairs and honed it for about 60 seconds on my finest waterstone. And let's see what this looks like now. And that's what I'm talking about. The Tormek T4 can do a lot of things very, very well. I invite you to read a more lengthy review and discussion coming soon in Highland Woodworking's Wood News Online. There's just way too much to cover on this topic in such a short video. But you probably want to know right now, what's the bottom line? Well, I can categorically state it depends. Now, if you're a carver, a turner, or anyone working with curved, angled, or shaped blades, I honestly don't know how you wouldn't love this machine. With the right accessory jigs, you can sharpen anything, and you can do it very repeatably with a high degree of accuracy. If you mostly sharpen chisels and plane irons, and you don't feel like you're very good at sharpening, the Tormek will produce for you a very acceptable cutting edge with minimal effort. If you're very good at sharpening, but just hate spending the time to flatten the backs of tools and shape the bevels, the Tormek will do an excellent job with absolutely no chance of burning or scorching the temper out of your blades. It only runs at 120 RPM and is water-cooled after all, and no sparks. After flattening, shaping, and sharpening on the Tormek, you can still go to your finest waterstone and do a nice final honing, and you won't be able to tell any difference between this and the blades you've done completely by hand. Now, if you're just starting out and sharpening intimidates you a little, just buy a Tormek and skip getting the usual old grinder, and you'll be very happy. Down the road, if you want to add, say, an 8,000 grit waterstone and try your hand doing some final honing, you'll learn a lot. And if you're a devotee of hollow ground edges, the Tormek is your machine. It'll produce a hollow grind on tool edges without the danger of using a dry bench grinder. And lastly, if you're on the fence and can't decide, consider getting the hand tool accessory kit. This kit will allow you to sharpen kitchen knives, hunting knives, fishing knives, pocket knives, axes, hatchets, scissors, short tools, and more. This kit will make you very popular with your neighbors and friends and might even help you justify the purchase to your spouse. So what am I going to do? Well, after giving it a lot of thought, I'm going to sell my bench grinder, buy a Tormek, and keep my water stones. I'm going to become a sort of hybrid sharpener. I'm going to use the Tormek for everything except the final honing and touch-up honing on chisels and plane irons. I just sharpened the hatchet I use for splitting dowel stock, and it's never been sharper. In a few minutes, I'm going to sharpen my felling axe. Then I'm going to sharpen every knife in my kitchen. And then I'm going to go next door and gather up all my neighbors' knives and sharpen them. I kind of owe him. He mowed my yard, so I'd have time to make this video for you.